Welcome back. It's almost D-Day for parents with kids in childcare. From Monday, it'll no longer be free, and that's forced some tough decisions.
It's the most important time of our little ones' lives.
We know that what happens between 0 and 5 years is formative.
And our childcare workers bear a huge brunt of that responsibility, even in a pandemic.
Honestly, I walk in and I see them working every day. I couldn't do what they do.
I don't want a parent to have to choose between feeding their kids and having their kids looked after.
There's a lot of lip service about how important we are, but the actions don't match that.
Cases in Victoria are spiking and the unemployment rate is at its highest since 2001. But from Monday, Australian parents will have to pay some of the highest childcare fees in the world. And for some, it's simply unaffordable. High five? Yeah.
I have one in daycare and one that goes to before and after school care. Ready?
Rachel Cody is a mum of 4 from Penrith in Sydney's West. She's held on to her full-time work during COVID, but her husband has lost his job and has been doing temp work to help make ends meet.
It was pretty much a 50% pay cut that he's taken, and it's been harder to pay our bills. So having that free daycare for a little bit, it definitely helped us kind of stay afloat.
Rachel has been doing the budgeting, and this financial year her childcare costs will be around $400 a fortnight, a cost that's no longer feasible for their family.
When free daycare ends next week, unfortunately, we are more than likely going to have to pull our daughter out.
Some families have saved up in excess of $5,000. I think when you've had 3.5 months of not actually physically paying a fee to something, regardless of what it is, and then all of a sudden it's back on, that's going to be a huge hit to the hip pocket, I guess, for families.
The childcare rescue package was a life raft for working families, but not for our early childhood operators. The federal government covering only half of childcare centres' recent fee revenue, leaving operators to cover the gap themselves. The unintended consequence was that many centres struggled to make a profit. Some began to lose money.
We were told we were able to ask families to assist by donating things like their own nappies, for instance, and then 4 weeks later received an email threatening that, parents would ring a tip-off line and dob services in and then your funding would be cut.
Carrie Rose is the approved provider of Rosie's Early Learning in Brisbane.
And, I can say that my service managed through that time. I wouldn't say that it was easy, but we managed. We managed, though, because all of the staff were eligible here for JobKeeper.
How about start the park?
But from next week, childcare staff will be cut off from JobKeeper.
We still can't access JobKeeper, even if we're operating at 60% of what our income was. But the cafe down the road can.
It's the only industry in Australia to find themselves in this predicament.
The idea of JobKeeper being pulled for only one workforce and it being this workforce is impossible to fathom because they have been pushed to the brink, particularly in this pandemic.
And come September, when JobSeeker and JobKeeper are due to end across the board, there's industry-wide concern that parents will pull their children from care. A move that could be the tipping point for the childcare sector.
It is one of the lowest paid workforces in all of Australia. It is predominantly female.
Georgie Dent is the campaign director for The Parenthood. She says that even before the pandemic hit, the cost of childcare was a serious impediment to Australian women being able to participate in the workforce.
The cost of the fees and then the way our tax system works means it's often, there's no point. There is not a single dollar that a woman earns if she works more than 3 days a week. And so they don't, a lot of women don't.
Yet studies show that universal childcare, when implemented responsibly, is a key driver to a nation's growth. Recent research by the Australia Institute found that if our female workforce participation matched countries like Sweden and Norway, our economy would be $60 billion larger. If we matched Iceland's work participation rate, Australia could see a $100 billion benefit. In other words, working women could be the key to conquering our COVID economy.
The primary decision makers at the moment are men. They are white middle-aged men. And they are making decisions that fail to account for the different realities that men and women live.
The federal government has eased the work activity test for parents until October 4 to help them afford services. But both parents and childcare operators have expressed their concerns over whether this will be enough.
And I think that's what's really missing here, is that respect for the industry.
We're just going to have to do our best and see what we can do.
Now, under new rules from Monday, Melbourne childcare operators will be allowed to waive the gap fee to parents if their kids won't be attending because of renewed COVID rules. But for the rest of the country, the scheme ends Sunday.